was born into this rat race we call life. Mama taught me to be good, very nice. Dad brought me up to be polite. You gave me life. You gave me life. You gave me life. I remember Dad and me. I must have been 17. Always there for me. I was told from left to right. Should've do wrong from right. Headed down the road I couldn't see.
Don't forget to hit that bell at the bottom. That bell will give you the notification that we just uploaded a new video.
First of all, thank you, Rob, for asking me to do this. I'm honored to speak to these students this evening. And thank you, students, for your time and your attention this evening. And thank you for choosing education as your career. We need good teachers who have a passion for what they do and who are on fire for their kids. I'm thrilled to have this opportunity to speak to young educators. You are the front line in the future of the next generation. I truly hope that you are excited and on fire to go forward and make a difference. I am not an educator. I'm a parent who has been working with my child in the Clark County School District since 2011. I want to speak to you tonight from a parent's point of view so that you might go forward in your careers with an insider's view of the kiddos that you might be working with in the future. My hope in doing this tonight is that I might reach at least some of you, and you will go forward and look at each child as an individual. Each child will be coming to you with a history of medical issues, behavioral issues, etc. Each child has a set of parents behind them, good, bad, or indifferent. I want you to understand that each child is an individual regardless of their abilities or their disabilities. The best example that I can give you is my own story, the story of my son, Rock. We were not supposed to have Rock with us tonight, but we had a few babysitter issues, so my little guy is over there in the corner, and that's my husband, Peter. Rock was born with some serious health issues. He was born at 31 weeks and spent a month and a half in the NICU. The second day of his life, we were told that there was something seriously wrong. His head shape was not right, and they believed that he would be needing surgery. They also told us that he might not ever walk, talk, eat on his own, or pretty much do anything. Our outlook at that point was pretty dismal. As you can imagine, being a new parent, this was devastating. My husband and I immediately began to research the condition they told us Rock might have. To make a long story short, we found some doctors in San Diego who are experts in this condition. At 2 months old, we packed Rock in the car and drove to San Diego to have him assessed. Our worst fears were confirmed when they told us that Rock did indeed have this condition and would be needing surgery. After the surgery, Rock came to life. He started looking at us, he started smiling, he started tracking. He just seemed to be alive where before he was just living. His little personality started coming out, and what a blessing that was. He truly is the happiest guy on the face of the earth. Everybody loves him. He really is a bright spot on this earth. We immediately started trying to play catch up. We got involved with NEIS, Nevada Early Intervention Services. They set us up with a speech pathologist, OT, PT, and a life coach. Rock was on his way to healing, but we had no idea how long and hard that road would be. Now begins my story involving CCSD. When Rock was 3 years old, NEIS was ending. They told us we needed to enroll Rock in pre-K or early education, early childhood education at school. We enrolled him, and his teacher for the next 2 years was amazing. Her name was Miss Johnson. She is really one of the reasons that I'm standing here today. Miss Johnson gave me the strength and the confidence to know that we as parents have rights. Our children have rights. Rock was so far behind the other kids when we got into pre-K, it was really scary. We had been working so hard on things like walking, talking, eating, chewing on his own, that the academics just seemed to slip through the cracks. Every day, I tried to work with him on things, but when your child can't even walk, it makes it difficult to focus on anything else. Miss Johnson encouraged me. She would come to our home on the weekend and tutor Rock. She was constantly giving me charts and graphs and different suggestions on how to work with him and help him. Miss Johnson was the Rob Schaefer of Rock's early life. My introduction to CCSD was amazing, and it pretty much all went downhill from there. In pre-K with Miss Johnson, every parent was allowed the opportunity to come into the classroom with their child. You could stay the whole time, or you could stay for an hour. It was really up to you. I chose to stay the entire time. It helped me to see Rock in his school environment so that I would know what to work on with him at home. Miss Johnson said that it helped her because any set of extra eyes and hands was helpful. For kindergarten, the district decided to assign Rock to a school that was 10 miles away from our home. He had been attending his home school, which was 1 mile from our house. This made no sense to me. This school had a policy that no parents were allowed in the classroom. I was totally confused. I now know that the law is each parent is allowed 1/2 hour per month to come in and observe in the classroom. However, each principal can override that if they choose to do so. Most parents would be happy. Oh no. I think I erased something there. What happened? Anyway, I feel that when it comes to special education, the teacher should try to get to know something about each child. I know sometimes your classrooms are going to be larger than you had anticipated. I know that there might be circumstances that prevent you from being everything you hoped you could be as a teacher. You have to push through that. Rock's homeschool principal is amazing. However, this wasn't always the case. When she first came to Rock's homeschool, she found out that I was assisting in the classroom with Rock. She called me into her office and told me that I would no longer be able to attend with Rock. I explained that there was something medically wrong with Rock and that I was deathly afraid that something was going to happen to him without direct supervision. She did not budge. She gave me my walking papers. When we found out Rock had to have brain surgery last November, her whole attitude changed. She realized that I was not some crazed parent who couldn't stand to be away from my child for one moment, and started the process of getting to know Rock and getting to know my husband and I. She called us into her office and asked us about Rock. She asked us to give her his history. This was the first time any principal at any school had ever so much as asked about Rock. It has made me feel like they look at him as a human being and not just a number. Rock has had many more surgeries since the original surgery in 2009. He's had a repair or a reconstruction on the first surgery. He's had 3 brain surgeries. All of these things have taken its toll on his educational career. The brain surgeries caused him to miss the entire second half of 3rd grade. And although what I'm going to tell you now about the principals is going to sound derogatory, it really isn't. I still love her. I think she's amazing. I think we couldn't come to an agreement on how to go forward with Rock's education this year. So when I went in to discuss with the principal what we were going to do going forward, since the surgery caused him to miss so much school, I was told that he was being promoted to the 4th grade. This was unacceptable to me. if I promoted him to the 4th grade, he would be going into gen ed for his inclusion time in the 4th grade. He did not have the skills to keep up with 4th graders. I felt like this would be a huge setback for him. He would feel completely unsuccessful and inadequate. The principal suggested that I hold him back in the 3rd grade. I told her that I felt if I held him back in the 3rd grade in SLD, it wouldn't make any difference because they were all doing the same work anyway. I was in a real dilemma. My husband and I made the decision to homeschool Rock for the 2017-2018 school year. Mr. Schaefer has been monumental in helping me do this. He completely set up the entire curriculum for me, gave me a classroom schedule, and comes and tutors Rock about twice a week. He has been a godsend. Here are the things I want to say about my experiences. I want you to remember 4 words: expectations, miracles, inclusion, and partnership. Expectations. I want you to have expectations of every child that comes into your classroom. Just because they don't appear to be interested in what you are teaching or able to follow along doesn't mean that they can't. Look at those kids as a challenge, reel them in, find a way to reach them. I think that you will be amazed and surprised at how many times it works. Don't stick them in a corner with crayons and paper or shove them over on the computer just to get them out of your hair. Find a way to include them and work with them, and I think they will surprise you. Which brings me to my next word, and that is miracles. My son Rock is a living, breathing, walking, talking miracle. The fact that he was even born is a miracle. After being told that he might never about so many things, guess what? He's doing every single thing they told me he might not ever do. Never forget that miracles really do exist. One of the children that you might be working with could be a miracle. Don't shove that miracle in a corner. Inclusion. Sometimes parents don't know how to advocate for their child or that they have a right to advocate for their child. I feel like you as the educator need to inform the parents when you see a child who's not being provided everything they should be provided, that they can advocate for these things. One of the things that I advocated for Rock is inclusion. Had I never pushed for him to be included in gen ed, I don't know that he ever would have been. Please try to help your parents advocate for inclusion time. It's so important for our kiddos to be exposed to the gen ed classroom. It really is. They need that experience of social interaction at the very least. And again, I think you will be surprised at how well the kids do during their inclusion time. Not everyone is going to be a success story, but I think you'll be surprised at how many will be. My last word tonight is partnership. There absolutely needs to be a partnership between the parent and the teacher. If at all possible, I beg you to welcome and invite all parents to partner with you in their child's educational career. Let them know that they have a right to advocate. Let them know that you are open and willing to discuss how their child's day went, what they need to work on, if you feel like they're improving or not improving. I just feel like there needs to be more of a partnership between parents and teachers. It seems like all too often, teachers look at parents as the enemy, and parents look at teachers as the enemy. It shouldn't be like that. Don't let this happen if at all possible. The one who suffers the most is the child. They have enough to deal with. They should be able to benefit from both sides. Thank you for your time, and I wish you all the luck in the world in your careers.
So obviously, Rock's condition would fall under low incidence disabilities. Oh, stay up here, Jen. Stay up here. Are you okay with sharing what his diagnosis is?
Yes.
Okay. And then I want to talk about the I Am a Pig story.
Okay. So Rock, when he was born, he was diagnosed with something called craniosynostosis. And craniosynostosis, if you're not familiar with it, is a condition where when we're born, we have 5 bony plates floating around inside of our skull. And they don't fuse and become your skull until you are about 5 years old. His fused on the right-hand side when he was born. So it was called right coronal craniosynostosis. So this whole part of his skull was already fused, which causes the brain the inability to grow properly. If you've seen that movie Mask with Cher from years ago, the boy in Mask had craniosynostosis. So if you don't have the surgery to open up that suture, you can die. Your brain won't grow and you can die. So at 7 months old, he had that surgery to relieve that pressure. And then consequently in 2015, he had reconstructive surgery because his temples atrophied from that surgery, and his entire forehead and temples, they caved in. So they had to wait until 2015 to reconstruct that, and they did that, and it was successful. I think he looks amazing. He also was diagnosed last November with Chiari malformation, and if you're not familiar with that one, that is where your brain stem goes up into your skull. There's not enough room for your skull to cover your brain stem, and so your brain stem is actually extending out of your cranium, and so it causes all kinds of pain and numbness and tingling, and so he had surgery for that December 27th of 2016. That didn't work. What they do is they go in and they cut out a piece of the skull to give him more room, and then they sew in a patch. The way the doctor explained it to me, it's like letting out your waist, your elastic on your pants, kind of letting them out to make them bigger. Maybe you ate too much turkey at Thanksgiving. So they let that out and put a little patch in there to give you more room. Well, that patch that he put in there exploded inside of Rock's head, so we had to have another repair on that. At the same time, they discovered that he had a broken neck that we didn't know about because Rock wasn't able to articulate. You know, we knew he was having pain, and he would constantly, bother with his neck and his back and his arms, but we had no idea because he couldn't articulate what was going on with him. And so we think it happened in gymnastics, because we didn't know that he had this Chiari malformation thing going on. He was in gymnastics, and I really think that the broken neck happened there. So they had to go in and fuse his C2 and 3? His C2 and 3 on his neck. It was broken. So he had the fusion surgery, the Chiari malformation correction, and then that exploded, and he had to have another surgery after that. So.
And is that when I met him in June?
Yes.
So when I met Rock, he was wearing a C-spine, right? So which is
C-collar.
C-collar.
Yeah.
So he wore that for quite a while. So Rock would not fall under TBI, right? Traumatic brain injury, because he doesn't have a traumatic brain injury. What category would he fall under low incidence disabilities? It's not autism, right? He doesn't have a neurodevelopmental disorder characterized by deficits in social skills and communication and restricted repetitive patterns of behavior. OHI, other health impairments. Okay, so I had a kiddo when I taught SLD who had an extra protein growing in her brain, right? And at one point in her life, she was typical. I think I've talked about it before. But as the protein got larger, it caused more things to be impaired. She was an OHI kiddo. Does the district consider him to be OHI?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so, oops. Did you get that on tape, Peter? Can you, the I am a pig stories?
Okay, so.
Because I find this fascinating.
So Rock is interesting. It seems like, I'm gonna go back from that.
Please.
Rock never crawled. He never rolled over on his belly. He never did the things that infants do when they're getting ready to walk. He never did any of that. He was literally on his back for the first 7 months of his life, and he just laid there. We didn't know, was there someone in there? Were we reaching him? Was he ever gonna be more than that? We had no idea. So finally, we were in the living room, and all of a sudden he rolled over, he took a hold of the couch or the coffee table, I think it was the coffee table, and pulled himself up and started walking around the coffee table. And then that was it. That was the beginning of his walking. We bought him a little walker thing to help him, and then that was it. He was off and running. Rock always seems to find a way to overcome his situation. And so what Rob is referring to is, I just told you a minute ago that it was really hard for Rock to articulate anything. He could talk a blue streak, but it wasn't about anything. He had come up with pre-rehearsed lines that he would use to get his point across, but if you didn't know him, you have no idea what he was talking. This kid's talking nonsense. What's the matter with this child?
That is sometimes called scripting, when a kid takes something that they've heard, often in a movie or a TV show, and they just repeat it.
So Rock, when he didn't like something, didn't want to do something, something was not a preferred task, he came up with, I'm a pig, I'm a cow, I'm a chicken, I'm a tree, I'm an apricot. I mean, that was my favorite.
That one I haven't heard.
Yeah, I'm an apricot. He just had these and whatever one was in his mind at the time, that's the one that came out. And we had no idea really at first what he was talking about. And then, you know, as a parent, I'm looking at the and so I just started realizing that when I was asking him to do something he didn't want to do, or trying to feed him something he didn't like, or it's time for bed now, I'm a pig, I'm a cow, I'm a chicken, you know, that would come out. And so I went, oh, he's trying to tell me, I don't like this, I don't want to do this. So I would try to redirect and tell him what we would say, this is what we would say. So I'm trying to replace those lines with appropriate language, and it worked. I mean, he doesn't say that anymore.
Well, also though, after he had the brain surgeries, did that also not go away?
Oh.
Wasn't part of that directly related or attributable to finally having a surgery that?
Oh yeah,
okay.
The Chiari malformation surgery was, I don't even know how to describe it. It was as if Rock had,
Went from 0 to 120.
well, it's like he was behind a screen and you couldn't really get totally through to him, language-wise, you know, cognitively. And then he had that surgery and it was like someone went, whoosh, ta-da, here's Rock. Because all of a sudden, he's having conversations. He's having conversations. The other day, you know, normally I interact and I have to almost translate. I have to almost translate for him when he talks to someone because they don't understand his language. But now, the other day, we were in line to go to see the movie The Star. We're standing in line, and there's this other little boy there with his brothers and sisters and stuff, and they started playing in the line, all of them rock. And normally I would be like, oh, you know, I'm trying to navigate the conversation because Rock didn't have those skills. But I thought, let me just step back and observe with the new surgery, you know, Rock. And so he actually held his own with these kids. They were playing I Spy with My Little Eye, something red, you know, and Rock was going, right there, right there, right there. Okay, my turn, my turn. And I was like pinching my husband, we're pinching each other, going, are you seeing this? Are you hearing this? And it's like amazing to watch. I feel like that new mother who has a newborn, watching the newborn grow and, you know, all the milestones that they reach, I feel like that now. Like I'm seeing that now. And it's so amazing. It's that surgery and those doctors have really been a blessing in our lives. I mean, they just opened up another world for him, a world of being able to maybe make a friend and have a conversation and, you know, really be part of a group, you know, whereas before if there were a group of kids, all the kids were talking and Rock was just kind of over here by himself because he didn't know how to get in there. And if you did examine a pig, then they'd go, what? You're not a pig, Rock, you know. And so it's just been amazing.
So the reason why I wanted Jen to just talk about that one experience is because a lot of times schools want you to focus on behavior, right? And so this is one of those examples, and they may be rare, that Rock's behavior of saying I'm a pig or I'm a cow or I'm a chicken, that was his only way of communicating. He didn't know how to get what he was trying to say out, okay? Behavior is the lowest form of communication, okay? So you have a choice. You can try and figure out the underlying reason behind the communication of what he's trying to say, or you can try and change the behavior. In this case, the behavior didn't need to be changed, right? You had to create a way for him to communicate in a way that could be understood universally. In this case, once he had the surgery, that was done. That was solved.
And yeah, I think whatever part of his brain that was being affected that did, because I mean all along for as long as I can remember, I've always tried to teach him and show him and guide him like you do as a parent. You know, whatever he was doing, I would correct him, but it didn't seem to sink in. But now since he's had the surgery, it's like that line of communication from me to him, from the educator to him, from the therapist to him, from the doctor to him, whoever it is, it's actually getting in there and he's going, oh, I understand that. I actually understand what they're saying, and guess what? I can answer them back. We can have a conversation. I can ask you, how are you today? And they'll say, I'm fine, how are you? And then it's like he's cognitively starting to understand what conversation is, what communication is.
I was going to sit here and, you know, Jen, how you doing? What's going on? Yeah, he's clearly taking over the class.
I'm over here with Daddy.
How you doing, Rock?
Good job.
So many braces.
Yeah.
Brace yourself, Rock.
Hi.
Oh my God.
He's a showstopper.
There's my goodwill ambassador.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what a miracle, right? I mean,
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
on his back and didn't know what was, and they told me he might not ever. And here he is.
Sir.